we have Hira, Shoaib, Amne, Hassan, all of you. And our conversation today is a lot about the buzzwords that had been used across the time period. For example, communities, markets, and also third spaces were used as buzzwords across the industry. But now you guys are examples of breathing and living this term on and off and building these real spaces all together. So we're very excited about this conversation. Amne, will start off this from you.
Why not? I'm used to having that privilege thanks to having a name with A.
So what you do is, of course, bringing artists together and I think phenomenal work and bringing them a platform to take their art to different areas, right? But you've been also very vocal about ethical marketing and communal third spaces altogether. So in this space, how much it has evolved over time in Pakistan and what has been your response so far?
Oh God, I love answering this question. I know I'm meant to keep it short. So I think it's really interesting if you look at the landscape in Pakistan, if you look at how third spaces have changed. There used to be these informal spaces like for boys, it was chai dhabas. For girls, if you were lucky enough, a space on the roof, maybe like a garden somewhere. And now they've become more organized. We've got these co-working spaces, we've got festivals, we've got these curated markets. And of course, then you have the fourth space, which is digital. I think for me, what's been particularly interesting in the evolution, I think in the stage where we were creating these spaces, that was just really exciting. It was exciting to be part of that conversation. But it's beginning to shift for me quite a bit now. I think I'm really interested in applying a more inclusive and intersectional lens to the space because when you talk about terms like community, we have almost defanged or depoliticized these terms. These are not terms without meaning. So who are we creating these spaces for? What are these third spaces meant to include? Many of our third spaces are ticketed, they're heavily gated. So they're for the elite, they're for the urban people, they're for the elite, they're for people who can have conversations in halls like this. They're for people like you and me. And yet we claim to represent, at least in my work, I definitely came to represent rural women and makers and communities whose resilience have really built our heritage identity in our country. So for me, the question right now, Osama, is looking at when I curate a space, whether it's a festival or a market, is more, who does this space represent? Who feels safe here? Who feels they belong here? And what does that mean for my work in the future?
Okay. I think when you speak about belong, and I think, Hassan, my question to you would be, like how Mashin has evolved over time as well, and now it could be a digital third space, right? Where people come together and they feel belong. What kind of thinking goes into bringing that content that gives that sense of belonging to spaces beyond and across nationally?
I think it's really tough to be as you grow. I think it becomes tougher and tougher to connect and to really stay true to this community term, right? And I think a large part of why we launched Bazaar was that we were so stuck in this digital space that we were like, how do we connect with all these people who follow us, and how do we take the same thing that we do digitally offline? And to some extent, I think we were successful in doing that, but I still feel like there's a lot of challenges, to stay true and to kind of bring content that people actually connect to or feel like there's some purpose. So I think it's a, ongoing thing, but I feel like the offline aspect really did change a lot for us because it did bring another aspect where I remember when we first started, people would be like, Mashin, and people wouldn't know how to say Mashin. And you can say it anyway, to be honest, but I'm just saying. And then now that we have this event, everyone knows what Mashin is because of the event, because people come here. People who would have never seen our content now know that, oh yeah, there's this digital platform called Mashin, and they get towards women and yada yada. So I think it does add a different aspect to have that space, even though we only do it thrice a year. To have, let's say, 25,000 people at a time coming. And really, to be honest, for a country like us, I think we need 10 Mashins. We need 20 Mashins, because there's nothing to do. And there people
Do you think it's a Karachi problem of nothing to do?
What?
It's a Karachi problem of nothing to do.
No, I think it's a Pakistan problem. We don't have anything but to watch the news and people are just so caught up in doing all of this kind of stuff that they don't have any time to just sit and chill. Like sometimes people, the happiest moment I have at Bazaar is when I see people sitting on the grass and just chilling.
Yeah.
And doing nothing. And that's really a thing that we need to do more. Like our public spaces, our parks, nothing is utilized. No one, and women can't even go
Yeah.
because they're scared. So I think even though it's a controlled environment, which I think is, needed, unfortunately, we still feel happy that chalo,
Kuch to ho raha hai. Yeah.
women can come out, they can feel safe, and they can just have a good day. And it's unfortunately just 2 days out of the 365, but okay, maybe more of us will do it, and there'll be more options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what you said is bringing people together. I think, Hira, for you, I remember when District 19 was not a thing. It was like in whispers, "Hey, party ho rahi hai, District 19 pe," like, where it is, like it's in Kurangi. It was like, it had this term, or like a shadiness attached to it. But of course, there was a larger vision that now we all can see, like how this space is giving out the youth an area to do some fun activities across the whole year versus just a one-off, right?
Yeah.
How do you come up with a space and able to sustain themselves for so long?
I think you're supposed to know more about the culture itself rather than just dive right into it. I think you need to have deep passion for the community and culture and bring it together, and also have like a business savvy sense to it, because if I remove commerce and community aside, I cannot sustain the business. It's not sustainable. So I see both entities to work together in order to evolve the space and the culture and the community together. Initially, my first problem that I think I tackled was that it was in Kurangi. And
Yeah.
all our odds were against us because we started in COVID,
Okay.
right? So August 2020 is when district started, and it was in Kurangi, and I didn't know how to bring people to Kurangi. And now there are 3 or 4 different platforms that have started in Kurangi, right? So it just takes a risk, and it just takes someone to start. So I think it grew over time. But it's not, like I said, it's not a one-person job. It is a community that believes in the system and also wants to own it. Yeah.
All right. And I think with bringing, while you are doing like fun stuff, recreational stuff, and Mash and Bazaars is happening community, and then we have all these stories as well, bringing that. So for you, while you are building a whole community across and working very closely with the youth, right? And I think what you're doing with Funoon is fantastic, where you're giving a platform. And I just recently come across to knowing it, that it's like a town hall, right? You're getting people a chance to, and students especially, to speak with and get answers around. How is this space changing, in your opinion? What are the expectations of the generation now when you get to speak with them, and what are the expectations in the coming forward of how this space is evolving for you?
Thank you for having me. I think these third spaces are constantly evolving and becoming a true necessity for the youth, especially because they are not associating as much with first and second spaces anymore. They're very clear that their workday ends at 5. They're very clear that their relations are very professional, and they're seeking something more outside. And as was just pointed out, in Karachi, you had these restaurants, or you maybe had 1 or 2 other things, but you didn't have things to do with your friends. Now there are other public spaces as well where you go often and you'll meet the same person, because every public space has its audience and community. And you meet the same person thrice, and then you eventually become friends. And that is what people were looking forward to. But when I thought about the youth, I was very clear that I did not want to warp my space just into entertainment and make it some sort of intellectual engagement as well. And I think that's where we aligned, because the youth also found some meaningful interaction there, and they were looking for something that was not being provided to them in their schools or in their institutions, and they had a chance for absolutely free to come to this space, hear out a very accomplished figure, ask questions directly. As you said, how youth is being involved in this. So what I figured out after 2 or 3 sessions was that I don't want them to be mere audiences, and that is something that was drawing them away and boring them of other spaces. So I made it that a youth member will host the town hall, and after a very short lecture, the youth is going to do the Q&A, and they are going to totally own and host the session on their own. So in a way, the audience is hosting the session. So that is something that drew them out, and that is something that made them. I mean, when I was hosting my first Funoon session, I did not know how much youth would want to intellectually engage and talk about serious things. And I was, on my end, I was really trying to wrap something fun into something intellectual, and I didn't know if it would work. But I think that formula worked because I was very nervous the first day, but we are 16 months in, and we've been having full houses up till now. So once you all come and speak there, then inshallah more.
And if I may ask, what's that one question that the youth is asking in these forums, or what a recurring theme that you feel has been noticed?
I think, which I would say that I'm a product of networking. And I think that was something that was really missing, and because my day job is a teacher. So in colleges also firsthand, I saw that that element was not being taught or ingrained at all. So I think the main reason they come is to get their answers. Like if somebody wants to become a journalist, if any of us here sitting wants to become a journalist, where do we start? Where do we send our piece? If we want to open an NGO, so our next session is with Ansar Barni. How do you register it? How do you start? So those were the basic questions कि पता ही नहीं है कि ये चीज़ शुरू कैसे होती है करना. हमें शौक बहुत है. हमें भी नुसरत फ़तेह अली खान बनना है, हमें भी मज़हर अब्बास बनना है, but we just don't know. So one thing I borrowed from Catalyst Labs was office hours. So after the session, I also introduced, okay, you can meet with them one-on-one as well. So networking was the main thing, and definitely where to start, how to do. And when these politicians come, then a huge crowd comes to hold them accountable.
Okay.
So those 2 cents also I'm doing.
That's wonderful to hear. So taking the conversation towards now, I feel in the sense of challenges and limitations, right? Like, because there is a way of running these businesses all together. And Amne, if I were to ask you this, that taking art and showcasing it to multiple users all across, what are the biggest hurdles you have faced personally into sourcing these or getting these across? And how has been your response to these issues? And what opportunities also you see that this place can evolve over time?
So I always like to first own my personal privilege when I answer this question, right? I don't think all of us have the same opportunities. I didn't have to fight my family. I didn't have to fight for an education. I don't have to explain much of my behavior when I go home. I can truly be myself, and I want to own that privilege before I answer this question, because I know for some people that can also be a journey. I mean, there's a lot of things that women entrepreneurs face which are pretty common. I mean, the lack of access to capital, people don't take you seriously. Just for the men in the room, do not call women Bibi. Also, don't call us Baji. We don't like it. You know, there's a number of things that people just do to put you down, to shut you up, right? And they don't like women who are confident, that they feel scared. But even if I put those sort of barriers of mobility, lack of access to capital, lack of education on business, and even third spaces, or the fact that, as Hassan pointed out, we don't have spaces for women to feel safe. And as a culture, we each have a role to play in that. How do you make that opportunity happen, even if you're not running a third space? But to me, I think the most disturbing challenge, and I think it's one that persists, and one that hurts, is this sort of very quiet, deep bias we have against our own culture and our own makers. We have such low respect for Made in Pakistan. We have such low respect for anything which is not fine, high craft and is not museum quality. तो अगर craft, एक तो हम उसको commerce नहीं कहते, उसको art नहीं कहते, उसको fashion नहीं कहते, उसको हम कहते हैं craft. Even worse, cottage industry. Even worse, handicraft. तो ये तो वो चीज़ है ना जो गाँव में ख़वातीन अपने आप को busy रखने के लिए करती हैं. It is not something that the urban elite enjoys, and the only time we enjoy it is when we exploit the labor and the love and the vision of a poor maker somewhere, and we refuse to engage with any of the politics of the space. Or the fact that, I was part of this fantastic conversation yesterday, which has probably left me hyper energized on the topic. But this idea that, we look at the river Indus, we call it Indus, which makes us think of industry, as opposed to calling it Sindhu, which is how the cotton came, which is where we became the hub of civilization. We forget how interconnected all of this is to our craft and our culture and our lives. Now, I know I can go on forever, but to me, this is the deepest pain, and it comes from our very fractured and raw sense of identity, which I think is such a disservice we've done to young people. So one of the things I take great pride in with my work, technically we're a marketplace that sells things, never how I've seen it. To me, it's about creating that pride in being from this ancient culture that is 7,500 years ago, that is not defined by the boundaries of Pakistan, but the identity of Watan, which is in our hearts, and about who we are. And that's all I'll say for now.
Amazing.
So I'll just take the conversation to Hira, to you around the areas, and I feel you've made it public also the kind of challenges you do face across when you run space like District 19, right? Has there been a time where you had to compromise on your own values to make it work, a certain event or a space at District 19 as running this third space? Because there's a lot of times as a person it comes to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what happens? How does that process go across?
When we do have this sort of attention, and this is a problem that I face on a daily, or maybe not on a daily, but sometimes during the day when I feel like I have to make a decision based on commercial versus community, right? But I think it's not to take one off the other, but to find kind of adaptability between the two and make financial sustainability as a part of community care, right? So essentially the machine needs to work together. There are certain projects that I say no to because they don't align with our values. And that's okay because we believe in long-term trust compared to short-term profit. And I think that is one of the main reasons district is what it is today, is that we haven't compromised on our values. We were known as the disruptors. We might even go die going down as disruptors, but disruptors is who we are. So if we don't find something that aligns with the business model or our community, we don't take it on. And I think tension tab hoti hai when people care, right? If there is no care, then it can be as easy to do it. And which is why probably people haven't done so much. But I feel like it's time to take that kind of thing as a fuel and work on more driven decisions compared to take it as a backlash. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good way to put it. And
Yeah.
specifically when you speak about backlash, I think Passion has a huge, massive platform, right? And it's more open to getting criticism and it's more open to getting negative comments and sentiments, right? So, Hassan, whenever you are curating something for perhaps enabling women and empowering them across, and when you think of the space, are there any moments or business metric that you keep in mind that this is how we want to take our next step, or any sort of success metric that you think is required before you take up a decision that this is how we're going to do it?
I think at least when I see it, because I think when it comes to the content and all of that, I leave that to the people who are women. I don't make the content. I largely deal with the strategy and business end of it, and I think it's always been like meaningful and then commercial, right? And I think you can do both, but it requires an extreme amount of discipline. And some decisions that you're like, oh, okay, I can make this money, but what will that end up with? So I think you have to have that discipline to know that, no, this does not align at all, and I cannot do this. And I think over time, when you build that trust capital, whether it's a sponsor or whether it's like a vendor, whether it's someone who's coming for any sort of service to you, they respect that, and that trust capital allows you to actually monetize in a way that you don't have to compromise constantly. And I think that takes time. It takes time to build that capital where you're like, to be honest, I think for the first 4 years, maybe 3, 4 years, we didn't really make any money at all. So I think at this point is when maybe, with the bazaars and other ventures which have been offshoots, is where we've started to really monetize. Because we built that trust capital. Because we didn't work with, let's say, a Fair and Lovely or XY brand, and we stuck to it, and despite the numerous attempts of someone trying to do something, we, just said, no, this is not what we're going to do. So I think that is a process that takes time. Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful that how fashion has been able to sustain its image and across keeping values and principles at the highest of operating across, right? And similarly to Shoaib, when we think of how Funoon is addressing concerns of specifically the barriers of entering the cultural and literary space across, because I'm not sure how many people are working on this particular aspect of things, but would love to hear that. What are the challenges that you as a founder face in this space, and is it on the interest of the youth? That are they still open to that, or has things have really changed and evolved, or how do you see it?
Well, the biggest challenge I face is funding, because I do it out of my own pocket. And like I say, I'm a teacher. We do not have any sponsors. So every month it's a bit of a struggle, let's say, to do everything. And obviously you want the session to be the best. But when I see, we do it on the last Saturday of every month. So when I see on the last Saturday of every month, when I see the hall full with young people, when I see them interacting, when I hear their feedback, so it does rejuvenate me, and it does add to my strength, and it makes me, go do it all over again for one more month. So that's definitely, that's the biggest challenge we're facing. But in terms of response, I think there is a youth segment that is heavily interested in these things. And I always envision to keep it free and open for all. So I think that is one way we have removed the barrier for them. We are connecting them directly with the people that matter. So on that aspect also we have achieved. Apart from that, I think the youth also wanted some levels where they can, on a Saturday evening, an 18-year-old could have other plans as well, but they choose to attend. And so just like Amine was saying, I also used to wonder that we have such amazing people. We have such amazing actors or singers or architects, or I don't know how many really young people in schools and colleges can name a great Pakistani architect. I don't think they can do it on top of their mind. So, but we have Arif Hassan, we have Namal Haq, we have Farhan Anwar, we have Yasmin Lari. So it takes, networking, going up to these people, getting rejected, unanswered call, unanswered messages. I do it all for the sake of my responsibility to give back to society, and I am all for intellectual development, because as a teacher I see firsthand. Just recently a student asked me if the new Pope is a Jew. So, I come across all of this on a daily basis. So for me, intellectual development and youth enrichment are words that are very close to my heart. So as I was saying, I wanted them to connect with their own people, with their own heritage, with their own language. And we can boost the post to them. Attending is their choice. And I always tell, bring your friends, build this community. But I think slowly and gradually, I don't know how much we can bring people who are just not intellectually aligned to this stream. But I think it's only growing. So that's a very positive, when we talk about the youth, there's so much negativity and so much, the words are not very on their side, but I think that is a positive light that we can see.
All right, awesome. I think before we wrap this up, I just want to since we have a lot of students attending this, one piece of advice I want to ask each of you, if you could give them, if they want to start something similar to yours or something within the niche, how could they take that? Just one piece of advice, what would it be? Starting with you, Hira.
I think if anybody wants to start something, focus on what you have compared to what you need, is because you might need as little as possible to just get the ball rolling. So don't overthink, but just get started on that journey with whatever you have.
Okay, awesome. Shoaib, what about you?
I will say figure out your raison d'etre, your passion. do not duplicate. So if something is already happening, join them and, magnify them and not do the same thing 100 times. आप जो चीज़ करोगे उसके लिए ready हो, there might be 2,000 people in attendance, there might be 2 people in attendance. So be ready for that. Yes, plan, but do not exhaust yourselves in the plan. Just go ahead, implement it. Find like-minded people, find sub-partners that you can, and especially please be ready for rejections, for failures, because that's how the first step to building the community is, I think, that part.
All right, Amna, over to you.
Yeah, so as an elder millennial, I feel this almost need to apologize to younger people for the world we're leaving them, right? Political upheaval, climate apocalypse, gender and like economic inequity. So I think the thing that I would ask you to strive for is anything which brings you joy. If it brings you meaning and joy, it's likely there's other people seeking that. I am honestly a little influenced by these starry hearts everywhere. So I feel like compelled to say also things you love. The hearts are very distracting, guys. But yeah, just things that bring you joy and love are going to have meaning and are going to build into bigger things themselves.
Fantastic. And Hassan, you.
I think I would agree with, you should be passionate about it. But beyond that, I think just do it and figure it out later. Like, figure it out while it's happening. Don't think too much about it. Some people spend their whole life planning something, and it's just a waste of time. Figure it out, go out, do it, and it just happens. Things happen, and it takes time sometimes, but figuring everything out and being ready and, getting every detail right, I think is epic waste of time. Don't do it.
So just do it. There's
Just
no
do
problem plan.
it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What a lovely audience. We have a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much.